Hi and welcome everybody to another online workshop of this ArchiMentors Summit, where our goal really is to inspire you by sharing journeys, expertise and experience of our guest speakers, and also show you different paths you can take for your career as young architects and designers. And I'm David Drazil. I'm the founder of Sketch Like an Architect, and I'm your host for this whole virtual summit. Today, I'm looking forward to our sketching session with Olga Sorokina, who's a trained interior designer, sketch trainer, the author of the book The Sketch, and also the founder of schoolofsketching.com. So please give a warm welcome to Olga Sorokina. Hello, Olga. How are you? Thanks for being here.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, David, so much for inviting me to this amazing summit for architects. I believe it's going to be super inspirational and a success. So thank you so much.
It's great to have you here. Thanks for your time. Could you tell us just a little bit more about your story? Because to be honest with all the people watching, we've met with Olga in person, actually, in Copenhagen, Denmark, where I was living for the past 5 years. Olga has also traveled the world. She's originally from Russia, but she lived in Denmark, and now you're in New Zealand. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. I'm in Auckland, New Zealand right now. Another side of the world, completely different side of the world. So yeah, long story short, I'm originally from St. Petersburg, and my story of interior design drawing and teaching it started a long time ago. Actually, I started my school of drawing back in Copenhagen. So this is the city that
Yeah.
where we met in person with David. It was an amazing day. I remember. So I'm in love with interior design drawing, with interior architecture, since I started learning at the St. Petersburg State Art Academy. And yes, when I moved to Denmark, I realized that I really want to teach interior design drawing, since in Denmark and in Europe in general, there are not a lot of trained architects who can actually draw. So the majority of architects and interior designers in Europe, they primarily use 3D Max, AutoCAD, ArchiCAD, and they literally came to me and asked me to give them one-on-one sessions, to give them some basics. And this story, it began back in 2015. Oh my goodness, like
Wow.
So many years ago. Yeah, like 5 years ago already. And then I moved to Auckland, to New Zealand, and the same story here. So once people know that I'm doing drawings, architecture, interior design drawings, they instantly start to get so excited about it, and they want to be trained, they want to learn some basics of perspective drawing. So I'm really happy to share this knowledge, my experience with you guys, with young architects, with architects, interior designers, all creatives from all walks of life. Yeah, so David, it's an amazing summit where like-minded people can learn, can get really essential skills and essential knowledge to boost their professionalism, inspiration in their life. Yes, I'm really glad to share my knowledge during this short session with you.
Amazing. That's exactly our goal. And you are going to share with us some of the secrets from the State Art Academy in St. Petersburg, right? That you've learned all over the way, and many years that you've been practicing it. So what exactly are we going to learn today with you?
Yeah, so I will share with you my biggest love. This is perspective drawing, and in particularly examples will be all about two-point perspective, which is my personal favorite one. I'll share with you the most important types of perspectives for architects and interior designers, and I'll introduce you to some basics. We'll do a really cool warm-up exercise. Plus, I prepared some of my drawings to actually show how you can implement this knowledge in real life, maybe for your projects, or maybe some of you will want to do sketch commissions in future. So you will see some real examples how it works for real projects, and you'll get these basic skills, and the ideas behind perspective, because I know that for a lot of people, a lot of artists in particular, perspective, it's like a woo-woo thing. It's a lot of people overcomplicate it, and it's not that frightening. We just want to understand some basics.
It can be intimidating, of course.
Yeah.
We can relate as well. All right, so people can also sketch along with you, right? So grab your pens and papers and let's dive into it. I can't wait.
Yes, you'll actually need just a piece of paper and a pencil. Specifically for this session, I decided not to overcomplicate things and use the minimum materials. Of course, if you have a couple of markers, maybe one marker or a black liner, something like that, you can use it as well, also a ruler. But basically, all you'll need, the most essentials, are a nice and clean piece of paper or a sketchbook and a pencil. So we will begin with a little warm-up exercise that I do pretty much all the time before I start my drawings. And right after that, I'll show you some examples. So this is going to be like a part one warm-up. The very first thing, this is, you guys, like for professional athletes, right? So we don't want to overuse our muscles before we warm up them a little bit. So the same is here. Let's imagine that right now we want to fill in with simple lines a square space. So you can even draw some outlines for this. And let's draw a couple of verticals. The aim here is to put your verticals in such a way that they have the same length and the same distance in between them. So we really want to relax our hand here. We want to do this exercise in order to give such qualities to our future sketch as like loose, relaxed, confident lines. So if you want your sketch to be really loose and confident, it's really important to train your hand to achieve quite confident and bold lines. Next thing, we do the same, but horizontally. Horizontally, so you just fill in the space. The next thing we are going to do is to draw diagonal lines. And now I want you to imagine this square. So we do not show the outline of the square. We keep it in mind. So we do some diagonal hatching. And in interior design drawing, as well as in architecture sketching, you'll see that hatching is such a big thing. It's used a lot, especially for load-bearing walls, in order to show some textures. The next warm-up exercise that I love to do is to draw some figure eights. So we want to fill in the space. First, you can help yourself by drawing a little triangular shape, like triangle upside down. And we want to make the biggest loop at the top, and we want to make the smallest loop at the bottom here. This is, by the way, my absolute favorite warm-up exercise. I got it from my calligraphy classes back in St. Petersburg Art Academy. So you can try to do it a couple of times, and then we do it the other way. So again, you might want to make a little triangular shape, and we go from the smallest loop to the biggest one. And then you might want to make another one without triangular outline. Right after that, you can do some simple hatching. Plus, it's really important where you put your hand, your fingers on your pencil, because the farther away they are from the tip of the pen, the bigger the hatch the line can be, the more relaxed and loose it can be. When you put your fingers too close to the tip of the pencil, it's also fine, and it's actually good for some details. I do prefer to put it this way. The farther away, the more space it gives me to make some really, really long lines. So that was my warm-up that I do pretty much all the time before starting drawing some interior sketches. It's really important because you can see that it takes 1 to 2 minutes, but it gives you so much more freedom to your hand. All right, so as I promised, I will show you now a couple of examples of my sketch commissions. So this, for example, the drawing, which I did by using a 2-point perspective. My absolute favorite type of perspective, because I believe it gives more dynamic qualities to your drawings, and you can see the volumes of objects. Like, for example, here's some space around the bar. This is also another sketch of a restaurant. This time, as you can see, it's slightly bigger format. So now it's A3 format. And 2-point perspective occurs when you perceive the space from the corner. So the moment you see the corner, it means that this is 2-point perspective, and you can see volumes of space. I love to use this type of perspective for drawings of restaurants and some big spacious places. For example, this is an eatery hub. By the way, this is a new restaurant in Swiss Alps. This was a project of sailor and architects from London, and I was their sketch artist for this project. And this is for the eatery hub here in New Zealand, in Auckland. This is quite a loose sketch, so for this, this one took me maybe 40 minutes to create, while this one was maybe 2 hours to accomplish. So here I worked more with details, and here it was like easy breezy sketch to show some atmosphere of a place. Also, in terms of architecture, I've prepared for you a drawing of skyscrapers. So it might look a little bit childish, but it really explains the concept of 2-point perspective in a really, really good way. So basically what we have here, and what we will do in my next exercise, we will draw a horizontal line. So horizontal line, it is the imaginary line. If you think about the earth and the sky and this line where the sky meets the earth, or if you imagine yourself standing on the beach and looking at the ocean, so this is exactly the line where the sky meets the earth. In our cities, especially big cities, we can't actually see this line, but it still exists, and it affects so much the architecture elements, everything for our drawing. So the more you understand the perspective basics, and the horizon line and 2 vanishing points on it are the absolute basics of perspective, the more you understand this and the more you can implement it in your drawings, the better your drawings and the more professional they will look. So this is, for example, some kind of city, maybe New York. I had in mind something like that. So as you can see, all the lines of these skyscrapers, they converge in one or the other vanishing point. And to show you another example of a two-point perspective, I just want you to compare these two types. So this drawing I did by using two-point perspective, and look how we can see the volumes of this architecture building. This is, by the way, the drawing of an orangery in Adelaide. It was one of my urban sketching live master classes there, and this is the same building, but this time in one-point perspective, and you can see that this looks more like a section. It is not as dynamic as this one, so it's really good to compare things. The same here. The upper one I did by using two-point perspective, so we can see these lines, they're actually converging to the vanishing point. I even did a small explanation. So here I did the horizon line, and you can see that these lines, if we prolong them, and they will hit at some point the horizon line. You can also think about the horizon line as your eye level. So this is a level where you are standing and watching at the space, at the interior. So these are two vanishing points that are here in this drawing. And it's very often when drawing interiors or architecture, we can't see these points inside of our drawing, but here we just want to use some creative visualization. We just want to imagine these lines that they are on the sides of our piece of paper. So these are really, really interesting explanations, and you can compare, right? So the same buildings, but two different types of perspectives. So this one is again 1 point, and this is 2-point perspective. So just a couple of more examples of 2-point perspective, but this time interiors on A4 format, like this one. And also my favorite topic, restaurants. I really do love drawing restaurants. I remember when I was studying interior architecture back at St. Petersburg Art Academy, my favorite projects always were like big residential projects or restaurants or some museums, art galleries. It was so interesting for me compared to like regular apartments or something like that. All right, so now when you have some real examples of 2-point perspective, how it works in drawings, let's go back to our exercise. We can use the same. You can use the same piece of paper. I simply will have a new one, so this warm up will not distract you. All right. So first, I want to start with 2-point perspective in our interiors. So the very first thing is we want to understand how do we position ourselves in space. So for all architects, the most important drawing is the layout, right? So let's imagine that we are in a room. For example, let's, I will use my my marker just to show you the load-bearing walls, so it will be a little bit better seen on the video. You can use, of course, your regular pencil for this. So let's imagine that this is a room. Let it be bedroom, for example. And this is the entrance. And the doorway, the window, and the protagonist of the room, the bed, let it be here. So we, as a viewer, we came and we are standing right here. and we are watching at this interior. So this is the way how we perceive this exact interior. So we are standing, this is our angle of view. Normally it's somewhere between 60 and 90 degrees. If we include peripheral vision, it can go up to 120 degrees, but normally it's 60 to 90 degrees. This is the exact angle of vision that we can focus on things. So this is what we see, right? So we see the bed, we see a part of the window, we see, of course, this wall and a little bit of this wall. So what we see this corner, and we want to reflect it in our drawing. And now, when we positioned ourselves in the room, let's switch to the perspective drawing of this interior. The first thing I love to start is to define some picture frame, because I know that a lot of people, they just have this fear of white blank page staring at them and like expecting it to produce a masterpiece at the same time. The moment you break this white space and draw a couple of lines, you just feel good and ready to rock and roll with this perspective drawing. The next thing I love to establish is to put the horizon line. I'll put a little eye icon, so we understand that this is our eye level or the horizon line. So this is exactly, imagine that you have maybe a laser beam coming from your forehead, and this is basically this level. Next, we will show the corner. So you can see that the bed is, we'll see this wall, it will be right wall, and this wall, it will be left wall here. So we want to position the corner slightly to the left, because our protagonist of the drawing, the bed, it is located on the right side, right? So we want to see the more details of it. So we want, in terms of composition, it will be a good, proper drawing. So that's why, since our the most important object is located to the right, we locate our corner slightly to the left. And then it comes the most important moment, because we position our vanishing points. For these purposes, I'll use again my bright marker, so you'll better see it. How do we position them? There is a very technical explanation, a couple of them. I don't want to overcomplicate things, and I want to teach you the simplest method that I was taught back at the Russian Art Academy. So we simply take the diagonal of our picture frame. So we can measure it even with our pencil or with a ruler if you want to. And then we position this distance in between the vanishing points. So it doesn't need to be super exact, like 22 centimeters, 3 millimeters. It's okay to be like 20 to 22, because normally when you work on A4 format paper, it's something in between these dimensions. Of course, there are some proper technical architecture methods when you spend a lot of time and energy, but let's make things simple and use this lovely method. Next, we will introduce some dimensions, and it's really important in interior design drawing to work with space, because one of the most common mistakes that I see the beginners in interior sketching and in architecture sketching do, they feel they do mistakes in terms of proportions and in terms of perspective. So since we've already got some basics, some perspective basics, now let's address this proportions thing. The moment we introduce the scale, so in this case it can be 1 to 50, which means that 1 meter in reality equals 2 centimeters on paper. And the moment we show some rulers, so you can actually use the ruler to show maybe 2 centimeters below the horizon line, and 2 meters. 2 meters to scale 4 centimeters. So let's imagine that we are really tall guys, maybe basketball players, and we are looking at this interior from the height of 2-meter guy. And the ceiling here, the ceiling height is 3 meters. So we have 1 extra meter above us. And it's a good idea to mark this meter. So this is our 0 mark where the flooring area is. This is our 1st meter, our eye level at the 2nd meter, and the height of the ceiling is 3 meters. And right after that, when we established the basics, we can finally show our walls. So let's start with the left wall. It will converge to the right vanishing point. So this is really simple. The more you practice perspective drawing, the more you will have this in a kind of intuitive way. So don't get frustrated that while left wall is converging to the right vanishing point, you will just simply got used to it. By the way, perspective, in my opinion, it's kind of magic, because it's the way that we can show the 3D world that surrounds us, and we can reflect it on 2D paper. So our piece of paper is like 2 dimensions, right? And here we want to reflect 3-dimensional world on a 2-dimensional surface. So there are some rules of this perspective game that we want to get familiar with. And for example, here our left wall lines will converge to the right vanishing point, and the other way, our right wall will converge to the left vanishing point. So we simply start drawing our lines, and I really want to encourage you to primarily use your hand. Don't overuse rulers, because it's really great to train your hand. In order to make your lines more confident, first we did our warm-up exercise, and second, you can first imagine, you can actually draw this line in the air and prolong it, so you can kind of imagine how it will look like, and then you touch the paper and you draw it on paper. So it's simply practice makes perfect, right? Practice, but I love saying practice makes progress, because the more you practice, the more you get used to it. All right, so look at this. Now we have our ceiling, our 2 walls, and our flooring area. So the geometry of a space is done, and it's time to position the bed. So here, let's imagine that we have maybe something like 1 meter. Let's imagine that 1 meter to the left wall, then the bed itself, let it be maybe 2 meters and 1 meter. So you can use your eyes, you can simply draw by eye, but I know that for beginners, for the majority of beginners, it's so much easier to use some additional ruler. So we can draw a horizontal line which runs through the 0 mark, and we can put here the same scale ruler as we did with our vertical wall. So we can put here a couple of meters to the right, so 0, 2, 3, and 4. So remember, our scale is 1 meter equals 2 centimeters. So we want to put 2 centimeters for 1 meter, extra 2 centimeters, extra 2 centimeters, and so in total it's 8 centimeters to the right, and we can do the same to the left. It will really help us to position the bed. So now when we know that we have, let's say, 1 meter from the left wall till the border of the bed, we want to find this 1 meter here on our new ruler. So here is our mark 1, and we simply draw a line starting from A2 through this 1 meter mark. So now what we want to do, we want to find the kind of a projection of the bed on the floor. So we simply draw this line starting from the A2 and down through this first mark. All right, and second step, we know that the bed itself is 2 meters wide. I simply don't want to overcomplicate things and to draw like 1 meter 80 centimeters. So I just want you to get the concept. So where are these 2 meters? So they are in between mark 1 and mark 3. So these are these 2 meters. So we want to draw a line starting from A2 through mark 3. And this gives us the borders of the bed on the floor. And the same appears to the depth of the bed. So the depth, we go on our ruler to the left. So we take 2 meters. Let's assume that the bed itself is 2 meters wide, 2 meters long. So we simply find here these 2 meters. And now we draw a line starting from A1 through this 2nd meter mark. And voila, we have this projection of the bed on the floor. And this is the most important thing, because when we have this position, this bed positioned, now we can simply draw verticals from the corners of the bed. And then we can take some regular heights on our vertical ruler, which already exists. So we know that 2 centimeters here to scale is 1 meter, and some standard regular heights for the beds and for the seating, something in between 45 to 50 centimeters. So let's make things simple and simply divide this first meter into halves, which gives us 50 centimeters, half a meter. And then we simply draw a line starting from A1 through this 50 centimeters mark, and we simply prolong this line until it hits these 2 verticals. And now we can see the actual height of the bed in perspective, right? And the final thing, we simply will finish the box. It's really important to perceive the objects as simple boxes when drawing architecture and interiors. It's all about some simple geometric forms like spheres, boxes, something like that. And right after that, we have the geometry of space done. The geometry of our protagonist, the bed, is here. And after that, you can simply start to add some details. It can be some headboards. We can show the height of the windows. Maybe it's 2.5 meters. We find it on our ruler. We draw a line starting from A2, and it gives us the height of the window in perspective. But the most important thing, it is this. We want to position the horizon line. We want to locate our 2 vanishing points on it. We want to draw our objects to scale. We want to understand, of course, how do we position ourselves in this space, because all the rest, all the beautifications, all the chandeliers, all the lighting, these are all effects here. The most important in architecture and in interior architecture is, of course, how do you work with space? How do you show this volume? So it's really important not to jump right into details and textures, even though I know that a lot of people really love this stuff. They always ask me to record a new tutorial, Olga, how to render a concrete texture or timber texture, and it's really fun and cool. But the most important thing is to understand these basics. So these were the basics for a 2-point perspective in interior. So when we have this into place, we can draw interiors like this, even though they might look like this is so simple, this is so fine-tuned, but the template behind this drawing is actually these basics. If you really want to get quick results from perspective, you might want even help yourself and, for example, draw a grid for two-point perspective, grid for oblique view. You can easily find it anywhere on the internet if you simply Google grid for two-point perspective. And you can use your piece of paper. So since I'm working today with marker paper, it's a very interesting kind of paper. It has slightly transparent qualities. So the moment David, can you see that this paper is slightly transparent, and we can right? So yeah, we can see through the grid. So the moment you got the basics, you can do grid something like that, and you can very, very quickly use it to draw your interiors. Maybe you have very interesting layers on the ceiling, interesting construction. Maybe you have some decor on the walls. Maybe you have some pattern here on the flooring, and it's becoming really simple when you got the basics, when you got the concept of grid and these square meters on the ceiling, on the flooring area. So literally, we want to perceive our spaces as boxes, because the majority of our architecture and the interiors are rectilinear, right? And now I would love to switch to using two-point perspective in architecture. And I've prepared for you very, very interesting example. I believe a lot of you, since the majority of you are young architects and designers, I'm sure you all are familiar with a very famous building which was made by Le Corbusier in Ranshan. So this is the chapel in Ranshan, and it's actually has quite an interesting shape. So while I was preparing to this session, I did a couple of drawings. So as you can see, this chapel, it has quite an interesting layout plan. And even here, since it's not rectilinear, but we can still use the concept of two-point perspective. So let's quickly show its layout. So we can fit it in a rectangular form. So this is the chapel with a dome, and this is quite an interesting project by Le Corbusier because it is so different from all other projects that he did. Here we can see more organic lines. So these are actually the load-bearing walls. So these are the solid walls, and you can see that on the first glance they do not fit like a grid, right? But still we can fit it in the rectangular form. And the next moment we got the layout plan, we can switch to drawing perspective of this chapel. Again, I really love to start simple by showing the picture frame, right? To add some borders, and they can be very flexible. Finally, maybe we would love to add some space at the bottom or crop it. It's okay. The most important thing is to set a space for yourself where you can work. The next thing, as you remember from our interior drawing, right? So step 1 was picture frame, step 2 was the horizon line, and step 3 was positioning our 2 vanishing points. So we use the same principles here. Picture frame is done. The horizon line. So here, let it be slightly closer to the bottom. In our interior sketch, it is a little bit above the center. So with a dashed line, I can show the center line. And this is quite common because in interiors usually have pretty much the same height. So it's somewhere in between 2.5 meters to 3 meters in terms of like regular heights of apartment buildings. In terms of architecture, we have some more space here. That's why I want to position the horizon line slightly lower. So here we'll show the corner of the building, right? Of course, we want to position our vanishing points. So let it be A1 to the left, A2 to the right. You can also use this concept of the diagonal. So we take the diagonal of our picture frame and we put this space between our vanishing points. And then we simply draw a box first. And we want to show the borders of this chapel. So this is the dome of it. It has some peaks here. And when we are dealing with curved lines in architecture, let me draw it as a fragment. So I'm drawing this wall as a fragment. So the lines of it tend to recede to the vanishing point. And when we dealing with curves, we just want to draw these curves inside of this form. So here we'll simply add a couple of curves. We can add some more details. We can add beautiful, beautiful roof of it. And as you can see, from the first glance, this architecture, this building, it might look very complicated in terms of perspective, but when we break it down, it actually, there are the same principles, absolutely the same principles. The horizon line, the two vanishing points, and all the rest is simply details here. So I hope you enjoyed this session. I hope you got some basics of using perspective for our interior and architecture sketches. And I'd love to hear from you, David. How are you doing?
Thanks so much, Olga. I've been practicing at the beginning with the warm-up and the two-point perspective of the interior. I just want to thank you for showing us so great examples. You have a bunch of commissioned work and like fully professional marker colored interior and also exterior sketches. So thanks for showing us so many examples. I think that's, you know, examples lead. So it was awesome to see that. And also just the step-by-step process from going, okay, I have the picture plane, horizon line, vanishing points. Then I have the simple measuring methodology, which is something that I've been struggling with too, with the being precise in perspective, with the foreshortening and the depth that is kind of hard to just imagine if you don't have the experience, if you don't know the principles behind it, behind the constructive geometry. It's hard to put it together just on spot. So this is a great method and very simple and fast, most importantly, which is a great part of sketching as a process of coming up with ideas and using it in the process. So I want to say thank you so much. I made some notes myself.
Wow.
But let's continue. You have also something extra for free to offer, following up on these interior perspective. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I've prepared complete beginner level online course, and it's completely free. And I call it 7 days perspective challenge, where we dive even deeper into these concepts of perspective. I go into the basics, not only of 1 point perspective, but also 2 point, 1 point. So the most important types of perspective that we touched upon today. And there I've prepared a couple of short and sweet tutorials, short videos. Each of them is about 10 minutes long, and there are 7 of them. So each one of them is literally packed with essential knowledge and information, so you can get even more familiar, you can get in love with perspective drawing, and I hope that you'll feel even more inspired after going through this course to implement this knowledge of perspective into your architecture sketches, into interior design drawings. Yeah, so I can't wait to see you inside the course. Yes, and it's completely free. So for now, there are more than 10,000 people who
Wow.
already enrolled in it. So I got new testimonials literally every day. So people really getting a lot of fun during these lessons, because I decided to kind of add more gamification to perspective, to such like complex topic for a lot of people. So I make it more like playful, fun, with really fun exercises. So I really want you guys to enjoy the drawing process and not to get frustrated because of like some perspective rules that might seem overwhelming, overcomplicated.
Oh yeah, that sounds absolutely amazing. You can check the links around the video on the website. I believe it will be on the right side, to get absolutely for free this more in-depth perspective challenge course from Olga. And if you say, if I'd like to go really deep on perspective and I want to know almost everything and I want to use color markers, do you have also something to offer for that?
Yeah, so if you really want to dive deep into interior design drawing, into marker technique in particular, if you, for example, want to draw sketch commission, so if you are an interior designer or an architect or interior design architecture student, and you want to make really professional interior design drawings, I welcome you to join my course base, which covers all the basics, all the techniques that you need to implement this knowledge into your interior drawings, to make it professional, and of course to master marker technique.
So good, so good. You can find also the link for the base course on interior design sketching from Olga on this website, with a huge discount from Olga. She's very generous. Let us all know where we can best find you, get in touch with you, learn more about you online, on Instagram, on YouTube.
So I think the go-to is my website. It's schoolofsketching.com. You can find very helpful blog articles because I run a blog on interior sketching, on perspective drawing, on architecture sketching. So you can go there, and of course follow me on social media like YouTube and Instagram. It's also School of Sketching, where I publish on Instagram. I publish almost daily content, and on YouTube I publish new tutorial every week. So to keep you like informed, inspired, to share my experience, my new projects. So social media and my website, School of Sketching.
Amazing, fantastic. You can find also the links here on the website for all the social media. Instagram, YouTube, schoolofsketching.com is the main website. Make sure to check out all the links and freebies for Olga's courses. And thank you for watching. I hope you find this very useful, helpful for your sketching of perspective and interior. And please let us know what was the main key takeaway for you, and share it on social media using the hashtag ArchiMentors. And that's it. Thanks again. Thank you so much, Olga, for sharing everything with us today. It's been more than we could hope for. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you so much. I'm really excited to hear what was the biggest takeaway for our viewers today.
Amazing. Yes, please share it with us. Share it also on the Facebook group if you're in. And thank you for watching. I'll see you in another workshop. Cheers.